Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Cavan-Smith. Tonight, Ghana freezes its warm welcome to African diaspora would-be citizens. The decade-old policy allowing anyone with African ancestry to apply for nationality is put on hold as the government shakes up and some fear cracks down on the process. Also, cancer is one of Africa's top causes of death. And researchers from the WHO and specialists from the field from around the world fear that rates could go up on the continent more than anywhere else. We hear from one of the WHO's Africa specialists about what health policy should take into account in light of new research. Also, between the sea and storms, a picturesque Tunisian town lives in constant fear of landslides after heavy rains wash away homes, leaving the ground beneath them uncertain. But first, Ghana's suspended its policy of allowing members of the African diaspora to apply for citizenship. Since 2016, anyone from anywhere in the world who could prove their African ancestry could apply for Ghanaian nationality. About 1,000 passports have been handed out since then, but the government now says that's on pause as it revamps and maybe toughens up the criteria. Justice Baidu tells us more.
Ghana's Interior Ministry and the Office of Diaspora Affairs released a joint statement that said that they were putting a hold on the application processes for persons from the diaspora who intended to take on Ghanaian citizenship. According to them, this decision is to ensure that it improve on the efficiency of the process. This news has, however, been received with mixed reaction as it comes just a week after the controversy surrounding the issuance of a Ghanaian passport to popular American YouTuber iShowSpeed, who had a Ghanaian passport given to him by the Foreign Ministry only 24 hours after he had visited and streamed from the Ghanaian capital, Accra. There's widespread acceptance that this initiative to open up Ghana to members of the diaspora to take up citizenship of the country helps the country and puts it on the global tourism map. There are, however, critics who say that the process in which it is done is cheapening the Ghanaian passport.
About we Ghanaians issuing passports to the diaspora is very good because this is something that will put us on the map. You see, one thing about Americans or foreigners, they don't know what we have as a country. They don't see our richness. They don't know what we have here.
Issuing our identity to them is not going to be in the right place. I'm talking in terms of our security and then, let's say, our internal affairs, because it might even be a danger to the country in any way at all.
When people get to see what you have, they try to invest or get to experience it. I believe it's a good one that is getting the passport.
Several diasporans who have tried the process of registering for Ghanaian citizenship have complained about its challenges. Some struggle with the DNA process to prove their connection with Africa. There is also the issue of cost, which currently hovers around 2,000 euros to go through the entire process to get Ghanaian citizenship under the initiative. More than 1,000 persons from the African diaspora in the Caribbean and in the Americas have obtained Ghanaian citizenship, including a popular American songwriter Stevie Wonder in the last 5 years alone under this initiative.
Our Ghana correspondent Justice Baidu there for us. Now, according to Libyan media, the one-time heir apparent to the late dictator Muammar Gaddafi has died. His son, 53-year-old Saif al-Islam, was reportedly killed in the town of Zintan, but the circumstances of his death are still somewhat unclear. However, his advisor did tell local media on Tuesday that he had been attacked in his home by 4 armed men. Al-Islam's father was toppled in 2011 after 44 decades in power before being assassinated later that year as civil war erupted. Al-Islam was wanted by the International Criminal Court on Crimes Against Humanity charges linked to the uprising and was convicted and sentenced to death in absentia by a Libyan court in 2015 for inciting the killing of protesters. Now, cancer is one of the leading causes of death in Africa, and rates are projected to go up more on the continent than almost anywhere else. But the vast majority of cases could be prevented. Up to 24% in North Africa, 38% in sub-Saharan Africa. In a huge new global study from the World Health Organization and the International Agency for Research on Cancer, researchers are trying to get health systems around the world to invest more in cancer prevention and better understand the factors that can ramp up their people's risks. So to break down what this means for Africa, I'm joined now by Dr. Isabelle Suryo-Mataram, who is from the World Health Organization. Doctor, thanks so much for making the time to speak to me. Now, first of all, from this report, just give us a bit of a landscape view of the insights that you and your researchers have gleaned in terms of of what is happening with cancer in and across Africa.
So thank you also then for the opportunity to speak here. So Africa is really unique in terms of its burden. As you mentioned before, it faces the largest increase as compared to any other parts of the world. It's going to have double of its cancer number today. Just to be more precise here, today we expected 1.4 million of cancer cases diagnosed in the region every year, and then in 20-30 years from now, we're expecting 3 million per year of new cancer diagnosis in the region. And in our recent report, what is most important in the region that's also different from the other regions is that the importance of infections. So infections like HPV, which is linked to cervical cancer, but also many other cancer sites, hepatitis that are linked to liver cancer, and other infections still cause a third of all cancer in Africa. So it means also that there's a really big, huge potential for prevention of cancer in the region.
Are there any demographics across? I mean, it's a big question, 54 countries, but have you managed to establish any particular demographics that are at particular risk?
So but for Africa, again, this is another unique feature, is that Africa's cancer impact mainly the young adult. So people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, these are the main prime breadwinners for the family. So you can see it from the pattern of cancer itself. So breast cancer, cervical cancer are the top cancers that are then impacting the people in the population. And beside a lot of implications to the patients or to the families and suffering, there is also large social implications. So another study in NIARC, which is showing maternal orphans. So this is then calculating how many children who lose their mother from cancer. It shows overall around the world, 1 million children every year lose their mother from cancer. In Africa, so 30% of these 1 million children lose their mother in Africa. So, and we know from studies that children who lose their mother early, they have higher risk of poverty, poorer schooling, lifelong hardship. So we're losing a whole generation of people who can contribute to the society, to the future in the region.
Before we leave you, what do you want to see the continent's healthcare systems doing with this insight that you're offering? Are there any success stories that you want to see more of?
So cancer sounds harsh, but there is a good news. So from our study, it's very clear that cancer can be prevented. So in Africa, especially 1 out of 3 cancer can be prevented using strategies that we know are effective. Let's just take one example of Egypt. Egypt has been fighting against liver cancer, and this is linked to hepatitis C. So Egypt has taken this fight personally. So they have then the world largest liver cancer that is linked to hepatitis, but just in 6-8 years, they have now treated 4 million people from hepatitis C for free. Wow. They produce now the medicine directly in-house in the country, generic, so causing then the cost to be then lower. And this is all linked to the strong leadership in the countries. But also the country do screening. All population, adult population are being screened. They do mobile clinic. They track They're tracking every cases. And using these good examples, we can copy it throughout Africa.
Doctor?
We can do similar for HPV vaccination. So Egypt proves that cancer can be beaten.
Thank you so much for breaking down the importance of the work and understanding that you and your team is doing. Dr. Isabel Suryo Mataram from the WHO. Well, in Kenya, a breast cancer survivor is trying to offer comfort to others for the illness that she went through by using her knitting skills to create prostheses for women who've had to have mastectomies. Clarice Fortuné with more.
6 years ago, Mary Mwangi was diagnosed with breast cancer. After undergoing surgery, she discovered that silicone breast prostheses were far beyond the reach of most patients. She paid 22,000 Kenyan shillings, around 140 euros, for a silicone prosthesis. For many women, that cost is simply impossible, especially while paying for treatment.
So this one I bought at 22,000, and I can say I was privileged to afford that. So I asked myself, how many cancer patients can afford that, considering they are not even affording the treatment. And so that's how I wanted to learn about this.
Instead, Mwangi turned to knitting, creating soft, lightweight breast prostheses using yarn and fiber. Each one costs about 10 euros and can be made in less than half an hour. She now teaches other women to make the prostheses, building a support network among survivors. But stigma remains, even within families.
My husband didn't like it, me without a breast. So, and he went and got married to another lady who has 2 breasts.
Across sub-Saharan Africa, cancer rates, including breast cancer, are rising, with the disease among the 3 leading causes of premature death in almost all countries in the region. In the meantime, for Mwangi, a simple stitch is all about restoring confidence, community, and dignity.
Well, at least 10 people recently died in Tunisia in torrential rainfall swept in by Storm Harry. Landslides in the seaside town of Sidi Bou Said have left people living there in constant fear that their picturesque community could collapse at any moment. Their economies also started to flounder as the uncertainty affects tourism, as our team reports.
The Tunisian town of Sidi Bou Said is nicknamed the Balcony of the Mediterranean. It's a calm morning, but many who live here are worried. Torrential rains recently triggered landslides, and they're concerned that cliffside buildings could still collapse.
The ground was waterlogged, so there was a landslide, which you can see here, below the Museum of Arts and Music.
The local museums had to be temporarily closed. Sami lost part of his garden.
It's much less serious than what others have experienced, but ultimately it's an important indicator of the state of the hillside.
The town has always been particularly vulnerable to erosion. It's built on a cliff that rests on clay, but illegal construction has added to the risk. Sami tried to take precautions a long time ago and built terraced walls with drainage systems on his property.
What's very important is that neighbors work together. I did one part. My neighbor above did one part. My neighbor below did another part. There was a spirit of solidarity.
Residents are demanding that authorities do more and quickly. The instability is already having devastating effects. 8 families have been ordered to leave their homes. The town's also reeling economically. Shops have shut down and tour buses have been banned from parking.
They said that buses coming and going into the car park are causing vibrations. But if the tourists don't come here, we have no work.
These 50 shops employ 200 families. How can we manage if we can't walk anymore?
Tourism is the lifeblood of Sidi Bou Said, which welcomes nearly 500,000 visitors each year and had applied to UNESCO to become a World Heritage Site in 2026.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks very much for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.